Nike just made one of the boldest moves in modern football history, and it has the entire league talking. In a decision that stunned fans and analysts alike, the global sports giant officially cut ties with Dillon Gabriel after his disastrous string of performances, and almost immediately shifted its full marketing power behind Shedeur Sanders. This isn't just another sponsorship shuffle. This is a statement. For years, Nike has built its empire around one idea: winning. They don't just endorse athletes, they create icons. And now they're betting big on a quarterback who hasn't even started a full NFL season yet. That should tell you everything you need to know. Inside Cleveland, the reaction has been explosive. Gabriel's collapse, the interceptions, the fumbles, the visible frustration became more than a bad night on the field. 3 interceptions, missed reads, blown protection calls. Every mistake felt heavier than the last. By the final whistle, Gabriel wasn't just losing a game. He was losing his grip on the city, the fans, and most importantly, his brand. What fans didn't realize at the time was that Nike was watching too. From their Beaverton headquarters, executives were reviewing every snap, every body language cue, every sideline expression. To them, Gabriel didn't just look defeated, he looked off-brand. Nike's entire identity is built on champions, athletes who elevate, inspire, and dominate. And Gabriel, in that moment, represented the exact opposite: collapse under pressure. Behind the scenes, whispers started spreading. Marketing meetings that once revolved around Gabriel's image began shifting toward another name: Shedeur Sanders. Within 72 hours, his upcoming shoots were canceled. His promotional materials pulled, and his signature cleat project quietly shelved. The writing was on the wall. Dillon Gabriel went from being the face of Cleveland's future to the forgotten man in Nike's story. And just like that, what started as a bad performance spiraled into a career-altering turning point. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because Nike's move wasn't just about losing faith in Gabriel. It was about finding someone better. Someone who could not only play, but represent everything their brand stood for. And that's where Shedeur Sanders comes in. Because while Gabriel was falling, Shedeur was rising. When Nike makes a move, it's never impulsive. Every decision is calculated. Every headline, every endorsement, every athlete, meticulously chosen to fit a global narrative built on excellence and dominance. So when Dillon Gabriel's name suddenly disappeared from Nike's active roster, insiders knew something seismic had just shifted. It didn't happen overnight. The conversations began quietly. Late-night calls, emergency brand meetings, performance reports circulating through Nike's athlete relations division. Executives weren't just analyzing stats. They were studying behavior, the body language, the interviews, the way fans were reacting online. And the conclusion was simple. Dillon Gabriel was no longer an investment. He was a liability. Within 72 hours of his meltdown, Nike's marketing team executed what insiders described as a complete brand evacuation. His upcoming photo shoots were canceled. His name was scrubbed from pending ad campaigns. Even his nearly completed signature cleat project, something most players dream of for years, was shelved indefinitely. It was cold, it was corporate, but it was decisive. Meanwhile, another name began echoing through Nike's internal channels: Shedeur Sanders. What started as cautious discussion turned into full-blown strategy sessions. Reports suggest Nike's quarterback relations team fast-tracked a massive reallocation of funds to launch a new campaign centered around Shedeur, someone who embodied everything they wanted Gabriel to be: calm under pressure, marketable, confident, a natural-born leader. Insiders described the tone of those meetings as electric. Nike saw something in Shedeur, not just talent, but story. The legacy of Coach Prime, the charisma, the ability to command attention without saying a word. It wasn't just a new deal, it was a new era. By the end of that week, Nike's message was loud and clear. They weren't waiting for Cleveland to make a decision. They already had. Gabriel's chapter was closed. Shedeur's story was just beginning. While Dillon Gabriel's career seemed to collapse overnight, Shedeur Sanders was quietly building something unstoppable. No outbursts, no complaints, just quiet, calculated moves, the kind that only true stars make. For Shedeur, it wasn't about chasing attention. It was about commanding it. Every appearance, every post, every word carried the same unshakable confidence that's become his signature. It's not arrogance, it's precision. The same kind of poise his father, Dillon Coach Prime Sanders, built his entire legacy on. Behind the scenes, Nike's executives couldn't ignore it any longer. Influence, charisma, composure. Shedeur ranked off the charts. His presence was magnetic. His story was marketable. And most importantly, he had that intangible it factor that turns athletes into icons. When Nike called, it wasn't a test. It was a coronation. Reports suggest that the deal Shedeur received wasn't your average rookie endorsement. It was a generational partnership, one that placed him in the same early career conversation as LeBron James and Tiger Woods. We're talking about signature cleats, apparel lines, global campaigns, and digital content tailored to one thing: elevating Shedeur Sanders into the face of the future. And while the world exploded with speculation, Shedeur's response was pure class. No victory laps, no press conferences, just a single Instagram story, a short training clip showing him lacing up unreleased Nike prototypes, captioned, "Work now, talk later." That moment said more than any statement ever could. It was humble, it was confident, and it was calculated. Nike wasn't just signing a quarterback. They were investing in a narrative. The underdog, the next generation, the calm amid Cleveland's chaos. Shedeur didn't have to shout that he was ready. The world could already feel it. When Nike pulled the plug, the shockwaves hit harder than any sack Gabriel ever took on the field. Overnight, his name went from headlines to whispers. His face vanished from Nike's official channels. His upcoming campaigns wiped clean as if they never existed. And just like that, a promising career with corporate backing turned into a marketing ghost story. But the collapse didn't stop with Nike. Once the swoosh walked away, other brands followed, fast. Regional sponsors quietly froze deals. Local endorsements dried up. Even long-term collaborations that seemed secure started to reassess their partnerships. Behind the scenes, agents scrambled to spin the story, but the message was clear. Once Nike loses faith, everyone else does too. It wasn't just about football anymore. It was about perception. Gabriel's name became synonymous with inconsistency. His social media engagement cratered, dropping to a fraction of what it once was. The same posts that used to generate excitement now drew mockery, memes, and comparisons to Shedeur's effortless rise. Insiders close to the situation described it as a total ecosystem collapse. Everywhere Gabriel turned, doors were closing. Not because he lacked talent, but because he'd lost the narrative. In today's game, image is everything. And Nike's decision had rewritten his image in permanent ink. Inside Cleveland's locker room, the shift was just as visible. Players stopped debating the quarterback situation. Coaches stopped defending their choices. And fans, they moved on, fast. The new conversation wasn't "Can Dillon bounce back?" It was "When will Shedeur start?" The cruel truth is, once a player's brand cracks, rebuilding it takes more than touchdowns. It takes redemption, timing, and a miracle. And while Gabriel tried to move forward, one reality loomed large. He wasn't just fighting to save his starting job. He was fighting to stay relevant. Because when Nike turns the page, the world doesn't reread the last chapter. It starts a new one. Inside the Browns facility, the Nike bombshell hit like a thunderclap. It wasn't just another sponsorship headline. It was a message, loud and personal. Players didn't need to read the press release. The news spread before the team even hit the practice field. Nike dropped Gabriel. 5 words that shifted the entire locker room energy in seconds. Some players were stunned, others just nodded, like they'd seen it coming all along. You could feel it in the air, the unspoken acknowledgement that the tide had turned. Suddenly, Shedeur Sanders wasn't just the rookie quarterback waiting for a shot. He was the guy, the one everyone knew would eventually take over. Veteran players started whispering that Nike's decision only confirmed what the team already felt. "That kid's built different," one lineman reportedly said. "He don't talk much, but when he does, everybody listens." Even the defense, known for its skepticism toward flashy young players, started showing quiet respect. During practice, more heads turned when Shedeur threw. More eyes followed when he walked past. Meanwhile, Gabriel tried to stay composed, but it was impossible to ignore the shift. His teammates weren't cruel, they were just realistic. In pro football, perception equals opportunity, and right now, Shedeur was the story everyone wanted to be part of. Behind closed doors, Coach Kevin Stefanski addressed the situation head-on. Sources say he reminded the team that endorsements don't dictate playing time. But even he couldn't hide the tension. He knew that when the biggest brand in sports picks a side, it's not just marketing, it's momentum. And that momentum was moving fast, away from Gabriel, toward Shedeur. Every handshake, every side glance, every quiet conversation told the same story. A new leader was emerging, whether the coaching staff admitted it or not. Inside that locker room, one truth had settled in. The torch it had become a cultural shift. What Nike did wasn't a business decision, it was a statement. It blurred the line between sports and storytelling, proving that in today's NFL, image, momentum, and narrative are just as powerful as stats and playbooks. For years, brands waited for athletes to earn the spotlight. They'd back proven veterans, safe bets, names that had already built legacies. But Shedeur Sanders changed that model overnight. He wasn't just a quarterback, he was a brand archetype. Calm under pressure, disciplined, articulate, connected to a new generation that values authenticity more than tradition. Nike saw the future, and it looked a lot like Shedeur. They weren't chasing touchdowns, they were chasing influence. This move wasn't just about selling jerseys or cleats, it was about shaping the next decade of sports culture. The Prime Effect, born from Dion's charisma and Shedeur's cool-headed professionalism, had redefined what modern athletic branding looks like. And Cleveland? It was just the first chapter of a story that might end up rewriting the entire marketing playbook. Across the league, executives were watching, agents were taking notes, brands were recalculating their priorities. Because what Nike did wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. They didn't wait for Shedeur to start games, they started his era. And the ripple effects are massive. Ticket sales are projected to climb. Cleveland's media coverage has doubled. Fans who once tuned out now refresh their feeds daily for Shedeur updates. Even rival teams are acknowledging that something special is happening, not on the scoreboard, but in the spotlight. It's no longer about whether Shedeur Sanders will start. It's about how long the Browns can resist the momentum that's already swallowed the NFL. Because when a player becomes bigger than the position, when a story becomes larger than the game, you're not watching football anymore. You're watching history in motion. The true turning point didn't happen on the field. It happened in a boardroom. While Cleveland fans were arguing about who should start, Nike's executives had already decided what the future would look like, and they did it without needing permission from the Browns organization. Behind closed doors, Nike's athlete relations team finalized one of the most aggressive quarterback rebranding campaigns in recent memory. The moment Shedeur's deal was signed, the message was clear. He wasn't just a player anymore. He was an investment, a brand cornerstone, a symbol of what the next generation of the NFL should look like. Inside Cleveland, that decision sent shockwaves. Ownership couldn't ignore it. When the world's biggest sports company places its flag behind your backup quarterback, it creates a power imbalance no coach wants to deal with. Every press conference, every team meeting, every Sunday snap became heavier. Stefanski could preach football decisions all day long, but now every move was being judged through a corporate lens. And fans? They smelled blood in the water. Social media lit up with hashtags like #StartShedeur and #NikeKnows, pushing the narrative even further. Stadium crowds began chanting his name before he even took the field. For the first time, the brand was calling the plays before the headset ever did. What made it even more surreal was Shedeur's silence. He didn't need to say a word. His calm demeanor, his work now, talk later mindset. It amplified the legend. While chaos swirled around him, he looked untouched by it all. That in itself became the story. For Dillon Gabriel, this was the moment reality set in. No pep talk could fix what was broken. No stat line could compete with the momentum of a billion-dollar endorsement machine. And for Cleveland's leadership, it was the moment they realized something unavoidable. The power had shifted. This wasn't about depth charts anymore. This was about control. And Nike had just taken the wheel. By midweek, the vibe inside the Browns building had flipped. What used to be quiet confidence now felt like a storm waiting to break. The locker room, once united, was split right down the middle. Team Shedeur versus Team Gabriel. And everyone knew which side they'd seen this before. The moment the locker room's belief shifts from one guy to another, it's over. Doesn't matter what the coaches say or how the playbook reads. The energy decides everything. And that energy now belonged to Shedeur Sanders. Players close to Gabriel said he tried to keep his head down, grind, and stay professional. But man, you could see it. That look in his eyes during practice, knowing every throw, every mistake, every little misstep would trend online in seconds. Meanwhile, Shedeur didn't even have to take a snap to win the day. His calm, almost stoic silence was magnetic. He became the center of gravity, and everyone started orbiting around him. Inside the coaching staff, things got tense. Kevin Stefanski reportedly told his assistants, "We can't coach based on Nike's timeline." But even he knew it was wishful thinking. Ownership felt the pressure too. Every analyst, every headline, every fan post was screaming the same thing: start Shedeur. By Friday, even local Cleveland radio hosts stopped asking if the switch was coming. They were asking when. The writing was on the wall, and the ink was Nike gold. Gabriel's story was fading fast, while Shedeur's was just getting started. The silence before kickoff that Sunday felt different. Like the whole city was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable. Because sometimes, the biggest plays don't happen under stadium lights. They happen when a brand, a fan base, and a city all quietly decide the same thing. It's time for a new era.